Yo. So we're gonna do it again. I gotta do it again real quick. Cause I didn't like the video yesterday. So you see the book is dedicated to the mirror. This is the mirror right here. On page 3. The GAD 720, as you see here. Okay. Yeah, greetings, Mama E. We're gonna do an early morning video. Y'all ask questions. I expect questions. This book is gold. Okay, let's be very clear, especially what's going on in this name, the GAD 720. This is the gold coin. Only those who dig receive gold. If you do not investigate, and if you are not an interested individual, you're not interested in things, you receive no gold. Okay? I remember one of the last books I read as a child was called Treasure Island. And now I live in a city where the casino is called Treasure Island. And then on the song The Money Religion, I said, when I land on Treasure Island, I'll be crying diamond tears. Everybody loves that bar. This is it. Okay? And the sun, the air, the mirror, the ocean, and Africa. There's a lot of codes in this book. A lot of secret metaphysical codes everywhere that I'm not going to explain. If you are a genius, you will be able to decipher the puzzles that are in the book. This is important. This section right here is very important for people to understand the different ranks of women over time. In this book, we are talking about the Sibyl. The Sibyl was the communicator between the goddesses and the humans. This was the last phase before they started turning into regular women, or what you want to call the mothers and the prostitutes and the whores. And that's why you see the sable. Sibyl and sable are the same words. And always remember that. And that also goes for Pont du Sable, who founded Chicago. And I'm going over the sable right here. Okay. You see how it's spelled Sibyl. There's a lot of different variations of the same word that you'll find in different locations to try and hide the definition of the principality that's being exercised here. Okay. So the commencement. This is the introduction. The magic systems. I had to go over the many different magic systems because there's gods that are from many different magic systems inside this book. Okay. I don't have anything from the hoodoo system inside this book, and there's reasons on why. Hoodoo is really an American system on the way I look at it. A lot of people want to try and compile it as its own system that is strong enough to be compared with a voodoo. I honestly do not think hoodoo is strong enough to be compared with a voodoo. Hoodoo is more connected to a folklore type of magic system. Okay. So voodoo is way more ancient than that. And voodoo relies exclusively on the age of nothingness, the age of, and I don't mean nothingness. What I mean is the unknown. Nothingness and the unknown is both one and the same, which is feared, because it's feared in the element of it's unpredictable of what can go on because you don't know, and that's what age brings. You know, you never know the judgment of one that is extremely old, because they've seen many situations, and that what brings the fear, you know, for you to receive whatever consequence from you doing your acts. Okay, so this is a long timeline right here. This is a timeline of a lot of activity that was going on in the islands and also in Africa, dealing with laws, dealing with wars that were going on. It's to prepare the brain, okay, 28,000 slaves, you see right here, 1617. 28,000 slaves were being shipped annually from Angola to the Congo. So that's internal Africa slave movement going on. So it's preparing your brain for what you're about to read next, which is a lot of activity with the islands and also how it's connected with Africa and all the activity that was in between. So we have to go over the attributes and the patronages of saints, because a lot of people don't realize or don't see it because they're not educated to see it, and there's nothing wrong with that. You have to understand, like I said inside the book, both voodoo and Catholicism has been stripped from you. Voodoo and Catholicism are intertwined like yin and yang, and that's what it is, and that's what it will always be. Africa and the tribes of Africa have accepted things that African Americans probably wouldn't have accepted. They do put gods of other cultures to be intertwined with their system. To this day, they've never fortified a coast to make sure that there are no foreigners that invade, even though Africa has had a large amount of invaders over time. There has been attempts to eradicate countries of certain races that have all failed because of lack of support. Many of these things are talked about. One thing we have to understand about Africa is that there's so many different tribes that it's safe to say that the phenotype of a lot of these, I mean the anatomy of tribes, the human anatomy of tribes are different. And within that, it's close to say that they could be different, distinct races, and that would also support the mentality difference. Okay, so if that is the case, how do we disseminate, the results of mixtures of different races of people who have the same pigmentation of skin, and which on the outside of the black race would all be embodied as one race. Okay, so if we were to look at Europeans and we were to take all redheads with green eyes and put them in one location, and take all blue eyes with blonde hair and put them in a different group, would they be considered different race because of pigmentation, hue, hair, and eye color? You see? And how do we break that apart? Or have they understood that about themselves and created a yin yang mentality of both hate and love where they operate with each other in balance? And that is the mechanism with the common ground agreements of dominance. And that is what you don't find in the African mind frame, is a dominant mind frame, a mind frame to take and ravage. Even though what's interesting about this is that in Africa there are more animals that take and ravage. You have lions, you have panthers, you have hyenas, you have snakes, you have all types of animals where you could have definitely observed and eaten as well, because to eat the flesh of a hunter animal is definitely going to make you more of a hunter mentality, more so than eating fruits and plants, which allowed you to be devoured as fruits and plants wait to be devoured. And that is what happened. Here you see in this picture is the upsetting of the Taino Indians. This is described by Bartholomew de las Casas in his book, which I do have the excerpt right here. Okay. And they're pouring the gold down the mouth of the Spaniard that they made a captive of war. And there's a little statement here where they're talking about what the Indians say: "Yield and throw up thy gold, O Christian! Vomit and spew out the metal which has so intimidated and envenomed both body and soul." And I highly doubt the Indians were talking like that as I stood right here, because the Indians weren't in that mind frame of context of high level expression towards these emotions, especially being emotions involved into a monetary system or a theology. Okay, it wasn't relative, just like you see the attire isn't relative as, okay. And also, if you look in the background, they're cooking the human body parts on the fire, which is, you'll see a lot of that. And as you should have known by now, reading Kicked Out of Heaven, to pay close attention to the pictures, because it's far more than just a picture. A picture has a million words, right? Is what they say. So the Barbados flag and the Poseidon. I also meant to put the sigil for Barbados, the devil, which Barbados could be directly named after this devil right here, as they both mean the reference of a long beard, or having the bearded creature, the bearded caricature of the devil. This is Poseidon's trident. Never be confused. This is Poseidon's trident, the blue devil. Okay. So we talk about that in here. Okay. And I go over what the blue devil really is and how he stems out of old Europe. Before all of this was going on. These are a picture of the war dogs. As you see, the war dogs, they're eating infants that are ripped in half, you see. And then there's a little baby over here by the mother. Okay, the baby is right here. And she's tied to the mother. Now you have to understand, this is all done out of the Spanish black legend, which is something that I talk about as well. And the whole practice of dog hunting was called the La Monteria Inferno, which meant hellish hunting, which means dogging. You know, have you ever heard one of your old schoolers say, you know, they left me for the dogs? You know, there's a lot of terminology and phrases that we use in the English language that actually has thousands of lives behind it, that supports the power of the phrase or the word being used, which is the real element of casting a so-called spell or whatever the case is. Not just saying the word, it's understanding the context of the human sacrifice and or orgy that is embedded inside the word. Okay, so after we go over Christopher Columbus, we got Christopher Columbus here. This is all in the Christopher Columbus section, as you can see here. Okay, Christopher Columbus. So I wanted to break down, this is the whole war dog section, because Christopher Columbus has a lot of metaphysics with the dog. And that's found in Saint Christopher, who is the dog-headed saint. So you have to understand that Christopher has also emerged into the Saint Christopher. And he's the dog-headed saint, and they were part of the Cynocephalus. The Cynocephalus is a so-called mythological group that part of the folklore of old Europe. There were dog-headed men that were cannibals that lived in the woods. But these men are also mentioned by many other cultures, and even the Egyptians, as we can also see the dog-headed man and the spear and the shield. These are all the attributes of the Saint Christopher, the tree and the branch. The giant, the ogre, which an ogre, Shrek is an ogre. Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk is an ogre, ochre. And ochre is also orc, which is the end part of the word work. So, okay. So, besides that, back to the dog-headed man thing. Anubis is also a dog-headed man, if you understand, if you want to go there. Okay. So, the dog-headed man is in many different cultures. Is he a real being? We don't know. But it is definitely part of the scenario that happened in the West Indies. And it assisted not only with their conquering, but metaphysically. It brought the dog all the way to the point it is today, where people are buying dogs and think they're popular with dogs, okay? So I go over the St. Christopher and his patronages, okay, the archers, the bachelors, the boatmen, the soldiers, the bookbinders. No, what's important and why I did this is to go over the saints is because they got patronages and attributes that are basically the entire culture of African Americans are inside the attributes and patrons of the saints. Okay. And then and that's throughout the entire book. That's all the saints. All the names of the islands and the saints that's over them. So you got Cimarron. Cimarron is really where the word maroon comes from. These were the Africans of Panama. because you have to understand that slaves were jumped off everywhere throughout. Hold on, let me answer this question real quick. We have a good question here. Let me see here. How has your concepts changed about mystery systems, time as an artifice, world history, and nature of man after coming into this light of info as it pertains to where we are at? Where we are at. Well, mystery systems. Let's go there because that's the main thing. One thing I understand is that when two people go to war, two different cultures go to war, on this side, there is a mirror layer in between them where their gods go to war on the other side. So, the thing about it is all about your psychological status and how you perceive your gods or what you demand from your gods. In Africa, I have yet to run across any story where an individual is questioning their god for gold or all the knowledge of the world. That is the basis of witchcraft systems in old Europe. The basis is dominance, whether even in the areas of love, women would want their man to be the slave, or a man would want a woman to love him forever, or they would be going for all the gold in the world, give me unstoppable gold, or give me all the knowledge in the world. And then also individuals who were rich were rumored amongst the peasants that they had sold their souls to the devil for gold. This is all European witchcraft. When I go to African magic systems, which is underneath the term sorcery and not necessarily witchcraft, what they're doing, and also let me state this: European witchcraft, they didn't incarnate their gods. And they didn't need to incarnate their gods. Now, when it came to African systems, especially in voodoo, they get possessed, which is sort of similar to what we do in Christianity today when you so-called, quote-unquote, catch the Holy Ghost. There is a possession. And through this possession and through this incarnation of the Loa, you can get answers to either heal diseases, or you can get ritual done for, making somebody to fall in love with you, making somebody to, or inflicting crime or inflicting some type of pain on somebody because you don't like somebody for something like that. There's never nothing about I want gold and I want to rule the world. So when we look at the societal structure, which of course assists in the development of their environment and the provisions from the environment, which is gonna definitely build their processing in the psyche. Europeans went through high level of deprivation. That isn't recorded in African. Okay, so the high level of deprivation may have brought them to the point of begging for the gold and the ruling of the world. The having readily available, needs, such as eating from the fruit of the tree, there's really, over time, there's no high level desire. Okay. And this high level desire, for instance, you can even see this with the nudity. If you're looking at your woman naked all day, there's no high level desire for the sexual act. If you're looking at a woman who has her bra stuck up with her tits all out, with her cleavage all out, but you don't get to see no nipples and you're leaving something to the imagination, it builds more of a desire. So that hunt on that desire principle is more of a werewolf type energy that's, in the European and not necessarily the African, because they had it on a readily available status. So what I understand is that you can't understand a magic system without understanding the psychology, which also boils back to an anthropological perspective on the activity of the people. Okay? So what I'm telling you is that by natural standpoint of lack of trial and error and lack of experience on those who had things readily available for them, left them in the space to be conquered and devoured as what happened. Okay? There is a superiority and an inferiority with life. There is a mathematical structure to socialism. There is a mathematical structure to magic. You will not be able to understand magic until you respect time. You can only respect time by accepting all the events that have occurred. Okay? And this is just the reality of the situation. I have no problem with this because I like winning. So whoever wins, I'm not going to agree with them exclusively, but the psychological space of winning can always be separated from the individual. And there are rules and regulations that allow you to win. And if you do not follow the rules and regulations to win, you aren't playing the game. And that is what is happening. Okay? So that's how everything has changed with the status of mind and time. I understand that, the habitual statuses of an island does not allow vast experience. They don't have a lot of animals around them. They there's not an expansion of too much of anything while living on an island. So the mind frame is extremely limited and small. For you to think on a business or to think on a product to develop and you're only thinking about black people, that shows that you have a small mind. Okay? Because there's way more people on the planet than just black people. Okay? And then you get more experience by going outside the realm. For you to focus only on black people means that you are attempting to conquer black people. So then that means, once again, that you are fighting your own, which boils back down to an island mind frame where everybody's fighting each other because you're stuck on one piece of land. Okay? So you got to understand that there's some real deep-rooted activity that's going on, that's been going on since the African Code 700, 800. Okay? And it's not going to change. I don't know if it's going to change or not. I've accepted the fact that, the limitation of mind frame is around the age of 12 to 15 for the majority of the planet. And this, oh, my bad about that. I got too much stuff running on my computer. But this mind frame of only going to 12 to 15 is seen by the painting of the skin, the pricking of the skin, the dancing around. You see, at the ages of 12 to 15, you get into a mind frame of protection. You get in the mind frame of trying to attract the opposite mate. You get in the mind frame of trying to deflect problems and fighting by projecting yourself as violent or some type of disfigurement, and you're big and bad is what you want to promote at around these age frames. And when we look at tribes, these individuals maintain that mind frame all the way until 45, 50 years old. And it starts at around 12 to 15. Okay? And that's just the majority rule, and that's why the production is small. Okay? So you can see that through a lot of the literature that I'm putting out and putting together, because it's for psychological development. And if you can't develop your psyche, or if you don't think you have a psyche to develop, then we fall into the realms of animal. And then there's going to be consequences for that. Just like there's consequences for being too intelligent as well. And that's just the name of the game. So, St. Ursula and the Virgin Islands, we're talking about that. We have to understand that everything going on with Epstein right now is in the islands. His island was called the Island of Sin, or the Pedophile Island, which was located in the private islands in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which is geographically right behind the British Virgin Islands. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. John, and Thomas the Apostle. Okay? The Grenadines, St. Vincent, Grenada is named right here, okay? And then the Mezquita, I put that in here because it has something to do with Nipsey Hussle. This is real interesting because this cathedral right here is actually a combination of Muslim architecture and Catholic architecture, okay? As over time, Catholicism definitely submitted or opened its arms, shall I say, and served its penance for all religions and inculcated all, and said, everything, as long as it's in existence, it is in existence and should be recognized, basically, is what happened if you want to look at the overall mentality of what happened with Catholicism over time. They got tired of smelling all the burning bodies, basically, and going to the torture chamber and hearing screams. So you got to approach the game different after so much carnage for so long. So, Saint Martinique of Tours, okay, is for the island of Martinique, okay. Trinidad and Tobago. Tobago is the word tobacco. I'm just putting the origins of the words and the names. You'll find the history and different locations throughout the entire book. This is a book where you have to read the entire thing to get the gist, because it's sort of designed like a dictionary, okay? Because there's so many events and so many people and so many different locations that were all attached to each other. It was better to do it like this than to try to tell a conclusive story. It was better to go, bing, 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 bing. That's how I do it. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, boom, boom. I ain't finna give you no bullshit. We're gonna need to get down to the nitty-gritty. So the Dahomey Amazons are right here. Their story, when they ruled, how they ruled, what they were allowed to do, and their decline. All of these stories are the rise and the decline of certain situations. The Ewe tribe, okay, and Saint Ewe, okay, who's really named Saint Avoid, but they also gave her the nickname Saint Ewe. So it was important to put this story in, as she is related to Ursula and the 11,000 Virgins. So I'll show you how deeply encoded they had the whole system. This is basically a software. Whoever developed this software, I don't know. How it was developed, I don't know. Over time, I don't know who put what in place. But it's definitely some agreed upon software system that ended up being our culture that we were blanketed under when we went through the West Indies and came to Africa and came to America. Okay, so here's the Guinea coin, the guinea pig. We had to discuss on that. Papua New Guinea, which is over there in the Fiji Islands, next to Australia. We had to talk about that. Negro land, the Igbo tribe, the Ifa, all of that is in here. Wida, the Ogun State. And I put Ogun State in here for a serious reason. Ogun State basically is also the god Ogun. Yo, let me hit you back. Let me hit you right back. All right. The Ogun State is Ogun, the god of voodoo. You have to understand that the gods of voodoo, a lot of their names are dealing with locations in Africa, and they're also dealing with different individuals who were kings of kingdoms in Africa, and they were also revolutionaries in Africa and also in the islands that are named after those individuals. I mean, that some of the voodoo gods are named after, and inculcate that energy to make the essence of the voodoo god principle a lot stronger in the reality sense. You have to grab from reality to make reality is basically what's going on. So, Black Sam. I thought this was ironic because there was a lot of stuff going on in here that had Nipsey Hussle's birthday on it. So, Black Sam is Nipsey Hussle's older brother's name. And I found that ironic, as I found the richest pirate that ever existed was Black Sam. He was only 28 years old. And this is his flag right here. Okay? Is a cross skull and crossbones flag. Very ironic. So, slave ships. Why did I put the slave ships in here? Because the whole premise of this book is metaphysics and how everything is intertwined. This is a great spider web. This is the African spider web. This is the jambalaya. This is the gumbo. So, if voodoo is a necromantic art, like a necromancy art, like Catholicism as well is the necromancy art. Christianity isn't. They don't have enough lives to necessarily claim to be a necromancy art, even though they use the symbol of necromancy with Jesus on the cross. But voodoo is necromancy. And maybe they don't have enough souls in the art to claim the gold that was stripped from them or to keep it. So I gave them enough souls for that to occur. And those souls were found in the ocean in these slave ships. And don't you ever deny the existence of slave ships. They were very real. The details that will be given to you in this book will definitely show you that they were real. They had to travel within 3 weeks to 3 months. It had to be certain type of wind gusts. The ships had to be weighed out at a certain point. Ships had to be armed with cannons. Certain ships had to train their slaves on a small scale just to prepare for war because they were going to war. Different European countries were going to war in the middle of the transatlantic slave trade. While they were trading slaves, they were going to war and fighting in the middle of the fucking ocean. So it was very real. There's too many details. There's a lot of court cases that happen off in Europe that have direct testimonies from individuals that were involved on slave trading ships. Court cases that went on. That's where you find the documents. And they're still available to this day in both America and Europe. So I don't want to hear the bullshit. There's so much fucking information here. Okay? That, you know, it's embarrassing that we have to sit here and wait for eons for somebody to bring forth the truth on this situation while Negroes been sitting up here debating about this nonsense for the past 10, 20 years. Okay? It's all right here. The slave ships, the fixed melancholy. I only got a little section about the Middle Passage. There was more lives taken in during the Breaking Islands than there was in the Middle Passage. Now, the DeWolf family is the family that's noted to bring more slaves in America than any other family. They also help finance the U.S. Navy. Okay? So we go over the Aztec Empire as the Aztec Empire was taken out by Hernan Cortez. Okay? Our Lady of Guadalupe. Our Lady of Guadalupe is actually the Black Madonna that's in San Antonio, St. Anthony of Padua's church, the one I stood in front of. You know, and I have her on the video on my YouTube page. I thought that was real ironic. So she stands on top of the darkened crescent moon. Okay. So I break down the patronages, and I don't do that for everybody because after a while, some of these patronages and attributes are self-explanatory for their position on how they work in African-American culture. Okay. This is Cecil Fetterman, Boys Came In, the Black Legend. Okay. The Black Shots were a group of like a secret mercenary group of gunmen that were slaves as well that would be set out to kill any type of revolutionary group, okay, by their slave masters, and they would get treated with extra gibsma when they got back to the plantation. So this is the Code Noir that was put into place by the French on Haiti and during all the slaves. There's a lot of hardcore activity in here, talking about cutting off ankles and everything else that's encoded in the law. Okay? Now, these are some statements from some of the men that were involved and some names that you could look up to get you a leeway into other individuals involved in the slave trade. This is the Crown Faustin Soluku War. Okay, the only emperor in Haiti that wore a crown. That name Faustin, or anything that comes with the F-A-U-S-T, is talking about an individual from old Europe who sold his soul to the devil that I talk about right here to compare what the reality is of what's going on with this situation, okay? So, here we have some more. Alright. This is Nanny of the Maroons. She's on the $500 bill in Jamaica. This is Sambo's grave. Okay, Sambo's grave is in Lancashire, England. We don't really know if there's a body in this grave or not. There's a Masonic type of poem that's written on top of the grave. And it's talking about the great judge and the archangels. I wonder what that's all about. And then we got the Sambo, where it really comes from, and the 180 different races that were documented in Haiti by Mr. Moreau de Mercy. Okay. Then we talk about the Tupac Amaru. Okay. Tupac, the word Tupac meant royalty in as the Inca state. Okay. And there's 3 different Tupacs I talk about here because they all have a similar relation. Tupac Amaru right here was sent to the wheel and dismembered and all types of shit. So, you know, it's pretty heinous. But we talk about it, then we go over the gods. We go over what Aviv is and what Eloah is and the Papa Legba, and we go over all the different saints are connected to all the voodoo gods right up in here, okay? That's what we do. We talk about the Bokor who makes the zombie. Okay, this is the only system that I've seen that makes a zombie. The undead, which is a similar principle inside witchcraft, is a little bit different on how they were created, and they had no outer influence control, nor were they designed for any type of work. They just attacked people. Okay, so the Mami Wada, we talk about the Mami Wada. Okay, and the Nganga pot. Okay, there goes Ogun again as an Orisha. And then we also talk about Oshun, Our Lady of Charity, Our Lady of Aparitia, which is appreciation, basically. Our Lady of Appreciation. Okay? The Moors and the Christians, which is a festival. All right, there's a lot of festivals in Catholicism. And a lot of them do represent wars and represent dominance over Moors and things of that nature. Okay, so if you're gonna stay in power, you better stay in power by remembering how you conquered, and that's just how it works. Okay, so we go over the carnival and everything in the carnival, you know. That's a good question. I'm going to address this question real quick. Has this info made you a little callous and insouciant, indifferent to your approach to teaching those whose foundation is skewed? After all, this is high-level science. Yeah, I didn't know this is the high-level science. I don't know. I guess I've just been in my fucking little, you know, glass ball or whatever, reading books, I guess. I don't know. People involve themselves in a lot of bullshit, and I don't like bullshit. You know, I like dominance. I like power. You know, how are you ruling? You know, how are you controlling? You know, and yeah, it's made me very indifferent. I don't really think. I guess internally, I had a lot of faith on you know, indigenous or native people being able to operate or comprehend existence. And I guess that's why a year or so ago I was so upset when it hit me about the whole animal and human habits, man, and the divide, because I was smelling it around the corner, and now I literally see it with this activity that's going down here. So, you know, it's created a divide. It's created I'm not gonna say a despise. It's let me know that I have to look at grown adults as children, and I don't like that. You know, just to be honest, I'll just put it out there. I do not like it. But I have to look at grown adults as children because of the level of information I'm dealing with. And I don't know, man. It sort of fucked me up. But it is what it is. nobody's gonna advance their position. So I don't really care anymore, you know. I mean, there's still more. So this isn't all of it. There's a lot more souls still locked up that need to be let loose, but I don't even really feel like that's important for me to do. I like to operate off of importance, you know. And I don't think it's important for me to do that shit, man. You know, because maybe it's good for them to be underneath these cloaks. You know, I don't know what else to say about it. Yeah, I don't get any support. You know, liars have gotten support. You know, and everything I've done is from my heart. You know, and it's time to put my heart in other places since I don't see nobody else's heart out here. I'll tell you that shit. So, standing in front of you with a suit and tie and being some fucking cream buttered Negro like you motherfuckers want me to be, you know, I don't fit in that context, you know. I live life in a simplistic format, and I provide a lot of this information so other people can start treating other people with common courtesy. A lot of people want to know what my aim is or whatever the fuck. It's like, okay, well, dumbass, be smart. That's the only thing that's going to make our system better here is for everybody to be educated upon what happened in history, what your position is, you know, who has done what. Are you doing anything for mankind? And that's the whole bottom line here. Nobody else is thinking in that format but Europeans by a majority rule, you know. And that's maybe because of the high level traumas that they've been through. Who knows what the true bottom line is? Because even when it comes to this activity and the force that drove the whole slave trade, I'm going to say that that's foreign. I'm not even going to say that that was, you know, human enforced because the death was too much, even though Europeans were accustomed to death at that time, you know. But besides that, you know, the last section, which is the most grotesque, is the carnival and all what we do for underneath the title of fun and how we destroy and destroy our social positions, maintain our social positions with high level negative energy is through the battery and the liveliness of the carnival and its many different characters. Okay, like this baby doll character right here is a female who carries around a baby that's fatherless, you know, and that's the point of that character, which is correlated to Ursula and the 11,000 Virgins, you know, and then the Bookman is correlated to Duddy Bookman, and the Bookman plays Lucifer, which is reversing the positive energy, I guess, of the revolution that was fighting against the oppression. So, and all these characters in the carnival, the individuals know what they're doing. Playing these characters, they play minstrels. They play the J. Roog is not a character inside the carnival, but this is the Haitian werewolf, okay, with his red eye. The Jamo Lace uh the ghost of a slave, okay, the midnight robber, the nigga the Jardin, the sailor mask is for the sailors that showed up. So you have to understand, man, there's a lot of heavy stuff in here, man. Y'all get the book, y'all holla at me. I got things to do, man. This is the God 720. This is Real Nigga Etiquette, the Voodoo edition. You need your copy if you want to get your brain rewired out of all the dumbass. Because it's a lot of dumbass in the land. And ain't no other your so-called scholars, your lecturers, or your prophets, you know, rewiring the nervous system and getting the dumbass out. So it's right here. So y'all get at me. Go to theblackmansbible.com. Go to Amazon.com, put in Real Nigga Etiquette, the Voodoo edition, or you can put in the GAD 720. Both paperback and ebook will show up. All right? Y'all get at me. Peace. Oh, go to StargatePublishing.com and also go to KeenanBooker.com. And it's all there to purchase. So get at me.